yeah. Get a feeling that I never had before. No, I get the feeling, yeah.
The ubiquity of smartphones, computers, and constant internet access have allowed streaming music services such as SoundCloud, Spotify, and Apple Music to become wildly popular. According to one estimate, in the period between 2011 and 2015, SoundCloud's registered user base increased from 10 million to 150 million. This year, Spotify reported a user base of 75 million, with 20 million of those being paid subscribers. Apple Music, which was launched 5 months ago, reported 15 million users. In contrast to the rise of music streaming, we are witnessing a slow decline in demand for physical and digital copies of music. Between 2013 and 2014, CD sales were down 15% across the industry, and digital sales from the iTunes Store went down 13%. Music streams, on the other hand, went up 54% within this one period. This suggests that the CD and MP3 music industries are becoming obsolesced by the streaming music industry, and ultimately, it is indicative of a shift from an ownership model of music to an access model of music.
It seems apparent that streaming music is going to replace purchased music, whether by downloads or by DVDs or CDs or anything like that. Hard media are pretty much on their way out, and streaming music venues are clearly becoming the preferred choice for so many people. Right now, as you probably know, Adele's new album is being heralded by some people as the kind of last gasp of the industry. If this album sells enough units, then maybe the industry will continue on for a bit longer.
Music streaming enhances the discoverability of new music and increases the variety of music that a consumer can access. In the previous ownership model for CDs and MP3s, consumers only had access to the personal music library that they had invested in. In the streaming music model, consumers pay monthly for access to a large library of music that is being constructed by the streaming service.
There's a whole lot of things on Spotify that are being listened to that aren't being listened to in a model where you have to make a purchase decision before making it, because when you're forced to pay $1 per song, you're going to automatically default back to the big brands, to the things you're already aware of that you like, etc. But with a model like Spotify, since you're already paying the subscription, you're essentially just discovering a lot of music. You're seeing what your friends are listening to, and the cost of listening to another song is virtually zero. It's your time.
It is also worth mentioning that in many countries where piracy is the norm, music streaming has revived the idea of paying for the right to listen to music, and it has discouraged the practice of online piracy. The convenience of music streaming will continue to be a major factor in discouraging people from pirating music and in encouraging people to pay for the legal capacity to listen to music. While the medium of streaming music is largely beneficial in the way it provides access to a wider variety of content, it may have some negative impacts if the medium becomes too successful. As streaming services begin to play a more prominent role in our consumption of musical media, it is important to consider how this may impact the producers of the music, the musicians. This means that when pushed to an extreme, music streaming might actually hinder new music from being produced and limit the music which can come your way. Musicians such as Taylor Swift, Jennifer Hudson, and Adam Levine have all denounced the move to streaming platforms. They point out that it is far less financially reliable for musicians than the traditional CD and MP3 methods of purchasing music.
We visited the West Coast's best independent classical music store in Vancouver, where we were given insight into the impact that music streaming has on artists.
The ownership is it's less about the artist making money and more about those companies like Spotify or iTunes making the money. The artists actually don't make as much profit. Sometimes they don't make any profit whatsoever, even if they're selling a lot. Well, I would never subscribe to Spotify or iTunes or any of those. They're actually kind of notorious for ripping musicians off, ripping artists off, and not paying them what.
While the implications of this technology are varied and complex, we can be sure of one thing. Music streaming is on the road to becoming one of the most preferred and popular mediums of music consumption.
Will there still be people wanting hard copies? Sure, there's still people buying vinyl. I mean, there will always be audiophiles and collectors, but I would say that the majority of the music will shift pretty quickly.
As Spotify's evolved, they're now 100% believer that this is the future.